Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, September 30th. Happy International Podcast Day. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Two topics today. We'll start with the Royals. You'll hear manager Mike Matheny look back at his first season as the Royals skipper. The team said as it was preparing for the truncated season that making the playoffs was the goal, and we know the Royals fell short. But there were some promising signs for the organization. Matheny talks about where the Royals appear to be in good shape, pitching, and where the improvement is needed, offense. So you'll hear from Royals manager Mike Matheny. After a break, we'll hear from Patrick Mahomes. He met with reporters on Wednesday. Mahomes covered many topics, including impending fatherhood, which was announced on social media a day early. And you'll hear what he thinks about this week's opponent, the Patriots. Let's get started with Royals manager Mike Matheny.
Hey, Mike, you've had some time now to look back over the season. Obviously, the bullpen was a great strength. The rotation settled in really nicely. The defense, I think, improved as the season went on. If there was one area that you'd probably like to see improve consistently, would be the offense? Yeah,
I think that's pretty much the universal thought. The consistency with the offense. We talk a lot about, and everybody's tired of hearing about the situational hitting. And so you can take your perspective a couple different ways. You can look at yourself as being a team that just needs to slug, and you stand in there and just try and swing for the fences and look for extra base hit and slugging percentage. Obviously, we need to increase our on-base percentage overall, but in a park like Kauffman, I mean, doubles are going to be just as effective, but I truly believe, and we saw it happen, we've played it out this way, we got to do the little things right. We got to get guys over, get them in. And every time we did that, it was amazing how that created some momentum for our club. And all those missed opportunities we had and all those close games that we had, you could see how deflating it was when we weren't able to get those runners in. How many times did we have second and third or bases loaded, less than 2 outs, so we didn't make something happen or at least make a scratch, and then we're one run down at the end of the game. And those are the things that we're going to have a very direct focus on. I know hearing with the camp, with the young guys now, they're going to know this is what's going to be asked of us. It's going to be talked about all winter long. It's going to be talked about all spring. And then we do know that we have the kind of potential to have the power, but let's control some of the small stuff first, and the big things will take care of themselves.
You didn't have your full lineup very much this year. Salve was out, obviously. Soler hurt at the end. Mondi had the bad August. Do you think some of the answers to get more offense will be internally, or do you think you'll have to look outside?
Yeah, Dayton has always got his ear to the ground and knowing what he sees and what he knows we can do organizationally. So that's always going to be part of the conversation. Just like last year, I remember sitting at the winter meeting, and we had a couple of the influencers in this organization talk about Michael Franco and how this would be such a great pickup for this club, and here's why. And believing that he could be a guy that's going to have that bounce back year. And for me, Rene Francisco was that voice more than anybody else because he had watched him so many times in the DR. Just having that ability to go out and find a player like that can come in and be a game changer for us, combined with what you're talking about. Love to see a full season of all the guys when they got going. We saw Mondi be really better than anybody in the league, obviously with his award of Player of the Week. We watched Salvi go through a stretch better than anybody else, and we've all seen Jorge and just weren't able to put it all together, as well as Dozier was another guy that we never really got on that really good run. So I think it's going to be internally. We're going to see development, and then always looking for ways to help our club improve, whether it's promoting younger players or whether it's finding somebody out there that can step in and do the job.
Mike, I got a question just to kind of follow up your answer about the situational hitting. I know you've done some deep dives on the analytics and that kind of thing throughout your managerial career. It's like situational hitting is obviously great when you're in that situation, right? But is on base just like, frankly, what this team really needs more of? Like, so it doesn't come down to the ninth inning. Maybe you're leading by 2 instead of trailing by 1, and that run's so necessary. I mean, that has been kind of a consistent theme for the organization. Do you feel like there's the focus on base percentage as an organization that is necessary?
There is. I would say every organization in all of baseball understands the importance of being on base before you can even do any kind of situational hitting. Seems like, once again, though, there were times when we were on base and not able to push it across the plate, which was some of the frustration. But we saw some runs where guys were taking more of their walks, figuring out ways to get on base. And part of that situational hitting, Soren, too, is that two-strike hitting, to where we're getting away from the swing and miss, putting the ball in play. We watched what happened with these guys like Amandi. When he put the ball in play, it was ridiculous how often that he made his way on base, whether it was even a force out in front of him that then put him on third base basically after two steals. So it is going to be kind of an and conversation. Situational hitting is working deep counts, grinding all the way through, and knowing the kind of player you are. We have some guys that should be swing for three. They're the guys that are going to cause big damage. There's not very many of those on our team, but we do have a couple, and they need to continue to try and drive the ball. There's other guys that need to get in. We need to work on putting the ball in play to where it will give us an opportunity to have some of that on-base percentage, but also it's just strike zone awareness overall. I think that's the difference of every single one of the players we saw go from a tough spot to a spot where they were in a better place, is the fact that they were recognizing strike to ball, and we're laying off the low pitches, figuring out what guys needed to capitalize on the top of the zone and which ones were trying to get us to chase above. And Monty's a great example of that. You saw him taking some pitches late in the season that he wasn't able to do early on, and it's a strike zone recognition. So those are conversations that have already started, some plans in place to try and help guys get there. A lot easier said than done, but on base is certainly something that every successful team is going to be focusing on.
And just a follow-up to another one of Flanny's questions, you talked about, the guys that were out, right? Is depth, like Soler missed big chunks, right? A lot of the guys that, you talked about doing the one swing, 3-run damage, right? That was obviously a big problem when he goes down, and it really shortened the lineup. The bottom got pretty thin at times. I mean, is depth maybe as important as finding that one guy is so that if somebody does go down, it's more of a guy who's ready to actually, command a professional at bat?
Well, the kind of player you're talking about, you're not going to have much depth with. If they've got the ability to cause that kind of damage, they're probably in the lineup already. And unless we're able to initiate one of the players who's on the way, and one of the young players that could potentially give you that kind of pop and that kind of push. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I did a poor job of phrasing it. My point being, the Solers are hard to find. Is it like more Francos, right? Like who did a really good job of lengthening your lineup out and giving you a professional at bat? Is that more of what you need, and some depth of those kind of guys to where it's not so thin down at the bottom?
Yeah, no, there's something to be said when you look at the bottom of a lineup that could potentially have 3, sometimes 4 number 9 hitters, where guys that are just going to kind of put the ball in play, do little things right. In the American League Central, you're going to have a tough time competing. You're going to ask your pitchers to do a whole lot to keep some of these other offenses down when you've got a very stacked 4 or 5, and then you just kind of piecemeal on the rest with guys that weren't quite locked in or haven't quite been proven yet. So, but you look, once again, going back also to Flanny's comment, in fact, when you put the lineup of what it should look like when everybody was healthy, that gave you that depth, I believe. You were talking about being able to run all the way down through that lineup, potential to do some damage, or the potential to put together the grinding style of bat that we need. But without question, the additions of guys like Michael Franco are needed, but we need the guys that we have to, 1, be healthy, and 2, stay healthy, and then 3, continue to improve. But I think a lot of that depth is going to be there if we can make a couple of adjustments and then get a couple of these guys to take their game to that next level.
When you look this year as a whole, the expectations you had coming into this, maybe spring training, obviously the year was very different than, a normal year. You obviously couldn't know about the COVID and everything else that was going to interrupt the shortened season and all that. But how do you feel like this team measured up to your expectations for them going into spring training?
Well, the record is what the record is, and it's it's interesting to see some of these teams that are still playing right now that weren't too far ahead of us. And you could go back in a number of games saying, well, what about that one or this one? We didn't have any of those crazy dramatic walk-off style games that another team had in their pocket that we stole. I mean, most of them we grinded out all the way, and a couple we let slip. And you just see how close we were, even win-loss column, to being where we wanted to be, which was continuing to play into October. But overall, I've said this a number of times, and it was kind of the call to arms to the guys from our very first conversations last November. Our expectation is to go out and search for excellence every single day for each guy and to play up to the highest ability that you can individually and for us collectively. And if we leave it all on the line every single night when we walk off that field and you know that you've given everything that you have and we're watching these guys continue to push and improve, you can't ask for more than that. But the bottom line is we've got to figure out ways to win. Winning is our business. And we didn't do that nearly as much as what we wanted to. But with the process in place of watching these guys prepare and compete and just how they worked, I had no regrets on how they went about their business. And I believe that they continued to move in that direction. What we were really hoping for was to change their belief of themselves into being a team that can win. And it's been said, and it's easy to say at the end of the season, hey, if we would just had a little more time. But I don't think there was a guy in that room that didn't truly believe that. If we were able to keep playing, that it would have been only a matter of time until we kept some of that momentum going that'll allow us to just keep building on that winning expectation, which is a huge step for any team to take.
And Mike, just a quick follow-up.
Well, I had one follow-up on that too, just the idea about the winning. Because I know when you came in, when your first press conference, the idea of sustained winning was something that you hit multiple times. Now that you've got a different perspective of not just the organization but the Major League club, what's your confidence level of where you guys are at as building towards that sustained winning?
Yeah, it's never going to change. I mean, I think it's always going to be something that if you're not walking in there believing that you can do that, now you have to be an honest evaluator with what you have, and that's probably the question that you're asking. And I believe what we have, like I said, is a winning group. It's just a matter of how do we continue to progress and grow. We have a number of young players who've never experienced winning at this level. That's why I think it was so important for us to be able to be in that space where we were looking at the last week of the season and we're talking about going into quarantine for the postseason, and guys feeling that pressure and looking at the numbers and realizing that, this is real. Let's run the table here and then see what happens. And had we done that, we'd be playing right now. And so those, just to experience that, to have the conversations, and then to have that reinforced by the guys in that clubhouse who have held the big trophy, I think all of that is steps forward. But as far as the talent goes, I don't think there's any question. It goes back to my former statement of we ran out of time. When we started to really kind of hit our rhythm, when we saw the different components come, whether it's our pitching, our starting pitching, the bullpen was fantastic. We started to put together some offense, and we started to get some guys healthy and some of the right pieces moving in the right direction. All of those things, to me, are the components for winning baseball, and we saw them.
Mike, just on the expectation thing, Singer and Bubic, I mean, I know guys have made the big leagues, especially out of college, with less than 150 minor league innings, but it's definitely not the norm. And I'm just curious, how much did the pandemic and no minor leagues kind of force your hand and say, we got to get innings for these guys and push them in there early? And then how much did they either live up to or drastically exceed your expectation for as little of experience as they really had?
I wanted them here day one, Soren. I really did. And just watching their stuff, watching their makeup, I felt they were ready. And that's always kind of that tough call from the organization's perspective. And following Dayton's lead, he's been doing this a lot longer than I have as far as just making those big decisions and when the right timing is. But for us, we saw two players with a unique skill set on the mound, but also had some of that maturity that was way beyond their years of experience. So I don't know how it would have played out. Kind of had some of those conversations as we were getting ready to leave Surprise, and we were talking already about Brady being a part of that and Chris not being far behind. And so that kind of did play out. The unfortunate thing is we just didn't get them as much of an experience to feel the challenges of 162. Both of those guys did a real nice job during the quarantine of staying very active, of keeping their pitch counts up, trying to build innings that we could kind of at least track and give some sort of value to for their overall workload. And they're continuing to work through the rest of this offseason to try and build up whatever that needs to be. But I don't think it was something that was forced by this situation, Storm, because they were two guys that we needed to step in and fill those holes that we had opportunities for starting pitching, and they both stepped in and did, I thought, a phenomenal job for young players.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Stars award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Let's start with Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Patrick. You mentioned after the game that the Ravens showed you a look that maybe you hadn't seen on film. Coach Belichick has made a living really off of that. I was wondering how you and Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid go through the process of preparing for maybe things that aren't on film. How do you go about that?
Yeah, it takes a lot. I mean, being able to watch all what they've done this year, being able to watch what they've done multiple years in the past. I mean, luckily for us, we've played them a good amount of times now, so we can see all the different types of stuff that they presented us and offenses like us. And so, there's going to be unscouted stuff. There's going to be stuff that he's going to throw out there. I mean, that's why he's one of the best coaches of all time. And so we have to make sure that we are able to make adjustments quickly and find ways to not have negative plays and have positive ones, even if it's unscouted.
Let's go next to Karen Kornacki. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Patrick.
How are you doing?
Great. What a great year for you. I mean, first of all, you're the Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. You beat Baltimore. You show who's the top quarterback, and then you announce you're going to be a dad. I mean, can you put in perspective just all this great stuff for you, and, of course, the most important thing being a dad?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely exciting. I mean, being able to kind of grow up and have these dreams of having a family and playing in the NFL, and for that stuff to start happening and really coming into truth and everything like that. I mean, it's really cool. And so I'm just excited that I have a lot of great people around me, and I'm in a great organization, and I'm able to live out these dreams day by day.
Let's go next to Herbie. There you go, Herb. Go ahead.
Hey, Patrick, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Hey, in light of everything that's going on right now in Tennessee and Minnesota, and I know you've got some pretty strict protocols that you approach how this pandemic's going. How much have you reflected back on these last 24, 48 hours on things that you need to do to maybe tighten up some safety protocols?
I honestly feel like us as an organization has done a great job of holding each other accountable. I mean, it's something that can happen to anybody. You don't look down on anybody that it's happening to, but it's kind of the way 2020 and the world has been. But I feel like Rick and his staff and the whole organization has done a great job of keeping us socially distanced, making us wear masks, even when people try to slip and not wear them, but making sure that they're wearing masks, holding each other accountable, and then you just kind of accept what happens. And so I'm just going to make sure that we keep emphasizing that, make sure that we continue to wear our masks, socially distance, and try to prepare ourselves so that we're not harming anyone else or ourselves.
Let's go next to Sam Ellinger. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Patrick, this is a little bit of an off-the-wall question, but you would have been, I think, in sixth grade when the Patriots went, 18-1. Do you have any memories of watching that team? I'm also curious if that's something that's even 1% on your radar going undefeated this year.
Yeah, I have some memories for sure. I mean, when they had Moss and Brady and they were lighting up the scoreboard and then making the run and everything like that. I mean, that was an amazing football team. But I haven't thought that far ahead. I mean, we're just 3-0 right now. I think that if you start thinking like that is when you lose football games. If you look at us last year, we came off a big win against the Ravens and then dropped a few games right there in this kind of October month. And so I think you just have to prepare week by week, day by day, and know that you're going to have a great challenge every single time you step on that football field. And so you can't take anybody for granted, and you have to make sure that you really accept that challenge every single day.
Go next to Matt McMullen. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Patrick. Back-to-back road games, empty stadiums, obviously. Just how excited are you to get back to Arrowhead?
I'm very excited. I promise. I'm very, very excited to be there, have the fans there, be in Arrowhead, and kind of feed off that energy. I mean, obviously we've learned to play in the empty stadium and kind of give ourselves our own energy on the sidelines and rooting for each other, but then to have Chiefs Kingdom there with us, rooting us on, I'm excited to be at Arrowhead and be able to play in front of some fans.
Let's go next to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Patrick, wanted to ask you about Stephon Gilmore. You've played against him a number of times now. What is it about him that stands out to you? And is there something about him that you and any quarterback really needs to know about him when you're playing against him?
I think all the quarterbacks know he's really, really good. That would be the main thing. I mean, he's a guy that's big, he's physical, and he's fast. And being with Coach Belichick, you can really tell that he really understands route concepts. He really understands alignments, what routes the guys can run from certain alignments, and I think that's just made him better and better each year. So it's a great challenge for us. That entire defense is of every single time we play them, but he's a guy that you have to know where he's at on the field, and you have to know that he's going to be a physical guy that's going to really contest every single play that you go his way.
Let's go next to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Patrick, I was wondering, and I know you're not going up against him, but with Cam Newton, just what are your memories of watching him, and how much, when you were coming up, did you sort of mimic and try to do some of the things that he does?
Yeah, I wish I could do some of the things that he does as far as how physical he is and the way he's able to make plays happen. But he's a great football player. Someone like you said, I watched when he was at Auburn. Yes, he went to Blinn College, which is down there, kind of close to East Texas, and so he played against like TJC and some of those junior colleges. And I see his highlights then when I was back in high school in those days. And so he's a great football player, and he's in a great spot now, and he's playing really good football. So you understand it's going to be a great challenge to go up against this team, knowing that they're going to be able to really move the football, and hopefully our defense is going to come out there and play like they did this last week.
Let's go next to Harold Kuntz. Go ahead, Harold.
Hey, Pat. You just continue to have success against teams that blitz all the time. Just what goes into that success and how you've been able to do so far? And my other question to you is, if there had to be a player who's an uncle to the new baby on the team, who would you trust as the babysitter?
Well, the first question, I probably would say, first of the blitz, I think the biggest thing that we do is we prepare. It's all preparation. We really prepare for blitz coverages and different looks, different fire zones, different man blitzes, and we have guys that quicken up the routes and get themselves open. And then whenever we want to take a shot versus the blitz, I think guys do a great job of making sure they make distinct angles where I can throw the ball to space and let them make plays. And we've done a great job of that. And then the second part, as far as like an uncle, I would say like Matt Moore or someone like that that's responsible. I can't let like Trav or anybody do it. I mean, you never know what would happen.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Patrick. Congratulations. I wanted to ask you, because you guys are so good at throwing the ball and completing balls downfield, that your defense is one of the best, at least so far this year, at containing teams from not having big plays. When you have Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, Dan Sorensen, and even a new guy in Tedrick Thompson, just what do you think that they provide for that defense so that the opposing offense isn't able to get big chunk plays the way you guys are on offense?
I think the biggest thing they provide is they're gonna be right there contesting every single deep pass, and that's the difference maker. Whenever you have guys that are contesting every pass and making it have to be a perfect throw and a perfect catch every single time, it's hard. It's hard on the offense, and so they might give up a catch here and there, but they're going to be right there contesting it, and they take respect and responsibility of making sure that no big plays happen.
We've got time for a couple more guys. We'll go Sam and then Sarent. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Patrick. We didn't ask you much about the long touchdown to McCole Hardman after the game. You obviously took a really deep backdrop on that. Was that what you anticipated doing before the snap? I guess what did you see on that play and also before the play?
Yeah, I think it was one of those kind of looks where they did that kind of package of blitzes that I wasn't expecting, and there was a guy free, and right off the snap, I knew that the guy was going to be able to come free, and I knew we had the coverage over the top that we liked. And so instead of having to maybe check it down or throw it, I wanted to buy time to let McCole run his route, to put the ball out there. And once I saw him make the first move of the double move, I knew that with his speed he could run underneath it. So I just tried to put it out there as far as I could. As we call it, it was probably a little bit of a toaster because it wasn't a very good spiral, but it got out there enough where he was able to catch it and score.
We'll go last to Seren. Go ahead, Seren.
Patrick, I think your numbers in September are like 32 touchdowns, no INTs, right? They're pretty good in all the months, right? But they're off the charts in September. What do you attribute that success to, and how you guys are able to be so efficient, to start the seasons?
I truly believe it's how we run training camp. I mean, Coach Reed puts us in these situations that are very game-like, that they're very similar to the situations that we really presented in the game, and we're prepared for it. And I think that's a big credit to him and our whole coaching staff, is they put us in situations in training camp that we're prepared for everything right out of the gate. And now it's about building and keep getting better and carrying that momentum throughout the season.
Little bonus audio for you here. Let's hear what Chiefs tackle Eric Fisher had to say about his touchdown reception in the Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens.
What was going through your mind when you knew that play was getting called and when the ball was in the air?
Yeah, we had to go heavy personnel on that, and once Wiley was down, I didn't think there was a chance we were calling it, so kind of surprised me, which might have been a good thing. That way I wasn't thinking about it the whole game. But when it came in, I went and reported eligible, and luckily kind of tricked the defense on the field there, and wide open over there in the end zone. And Pat made me work for that one a little bit, but it's all right. We practice those kind of things, and it was a memory I'll have for life.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Links to stories about the Royals and Chiefs can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes the Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There are more than 50 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. There's an entire section devoted to last night's debate. Hey, the details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we will be back on Thursday with a new episode.